Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Gunjan, and I work as a registered migration agent with Aussizz Group in the Melbourne Collins Street branch. Today, our live session is about employer-sponsored visa options. You all are more than welcome to ask questions related to any other visa as well, but mainly our session is about the employer-sponsored visa. The reason we are specifically talking about this option is because there are a lot of people, including the employers, who have this perception or notion that you need to be highly skilled or highly experienced in your nominated occupation for the employer-sponsored visa. Employers also have this notion that the applicant whom they are sponsoring need to be highly experienced. So in this live session, we are going to talk about some of the eligibility factors. What are the requirements? Some of the documents required, because it's a pretty detailed process. The purpose of this session is that it is a complicated visa, but it is not as complicated as sometimes the employers think. And so our job is to make the process easier for you. With the employer-sponsored visas, we're going to talk about two different pathways in this session. One is the 482 employer-sponsored visa, which is the temporary skill visa. Now, as the name suggests, the temporary skill shortage visa is specifically designed for employers to fill in the occupations that are in shortage. So that is itself, the name suggests that. And the other is the 407 trainee visa. As the name suggests itself, that is specifically designed to train the employees in their nominated occupation. The reason I would more talk about the trainee visa is because there are a lot of candidates and applicants who are not eligible for any other visa, specifically people who have lodged their expression of interest, have lodged the EOIs for the skilled migration program, or they have lodged the EOIs for the state sponsorship and who are on very low points. There are a lot of candidates who have lodged the expression of interest on 65, 70 points, whose visas are expiring soon, and they are not possibly also there to have invited. They don't have enough time left for the visa invitation. So they have options for trainee visa. Now, if you are currently working in your nominated occupation or even closely related tasks, you could be eligible for the trainee visa. I will give you some examples while I will be talking about the visa subclasses, because the most common I have experienced about the lot of trade occupations that I have employers who are willing to sponsor candidates. There are a lot of engineering professionals and accountants as well. For example, now this is only for the trainee visa I'm talking about, not for the 482, and then I will come out to the 482 part later. For example, if you hold a qualification of bachelor's or master's of accountancy and you're working as an assistant accountant, you could be eligible for the trainee visa in the enhanced skill stream. Now, the reason why specifically I picked up this example is that a lot of people think that, oh, I'm not working as an accountant. My tasks are not highly relevant as an accountant. So how could I potentially be sponsored? Now, I would like to focus that the reason of this trainee visa is to train the candidates as an accountant. So even if you're working as an assistant accountant and your tasks are closely related as an accountant, you could be eligible for the trainee visa. The trainee visa is actually a short stay visa, and it is more towards the professional development of the candidates. Now, that's the main difference between the 482 and the 407 is that the 482, which is the skill shortage visa, is designed for people who are skilled in their profession, and employers are fill in the skill shortages. And 407 trainee visa is to enhance the skills of the applicants. Now, the big benefit of this trainee visa is a validity for up to 2 years. The case officer could grant the visa from anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. Our main purpose is to justify that you will need time to be trained at least for 12 months or 1.5 years. There are certain conditions attached to this visa as well, like all visas do, like student visas, they also have conditions. This trainee visa has a condition 8102, which in which you cannot work anywhere apart from the training specified in the visa application, because you have been granted that visa on the basis of a particular time frame of training. So you cannot do any other work apart from that training visa. There is one more benefit, is that you can do your job ready program. Now, this is a separate factor, but a lot of people who are studying trade occupations, this is particularly for them that who want to do the skill assessment. You can also do your job ready program during the 12 months of training visa, because you have full-time work rights. You must also maintain health insurance while in Australia, like you do for student visa. There is also a genuine temporary entrant criteria, which you have to mention. You need to have an approved sponsor. The name itself says, because it is an employer-sponsored visa like 482, similar to 482, even for 407, you need to have an employer. And it is a step-by-step process. It needs to be approved for a sponsor first. There are some occupations which are on the trainee visa list. So it's our job. I'll have to check which nominated occupation you fall into. You do not need a skill assessment for most of the occupations, which is a plus point, because you're basically being hired to be trained. The main criteria is that you need to have qualification and some work experience. Now, that work experience has to be 12 months full-time experience in your nominated occupation. There are alternatives. Now, the department has given some leverage towards the people who obviously don't have enough visa left. So hypothetically, it doesn't make sense for you to be working in your nominated occupation for 12 months. So what happens is that with the 12 months work experience, you can also count your study or vocational placement. That work experience and study has to be within 24 months of when you lodge the nomination. So it should occur in the last 24 months. So if you're working with a company, and a lot of employers, the reason why I'm stressing on this visa is that there are a lot of employers who are not aware of the trainee visa plan, the trainee visa program. They always focus on the 482 employer sponsorship. And the applicants who have completed their studies here after student visa, they don't have enough experience for 2 years. So this training visa is specifically designed for candidates who need to be trained in their nominated occupation. Like I said, this 407 trainee visa can be granted from anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. It is up to the Department of Home Affairs. So when the file is lodged, the case officer will decide the length of the visa. So they will decide specifically that how much training you would be needing by the employer. So if the case officer thinks that, oh, you've lodged 2 years of visa, but you need only 1 year, there are some nominated occupations, like, for example, a pastry cook. If I've got a pastry cook recently, where I think as a migration agent that 1 year is enough for somebody to be trained as a pastry cook who already has 12 months of work experience. Another benefit of the training visa is that at the end of the training visa, you may be eligible for another type of visa. The 1 year of training visa will help you to have extra 5 points, because in skilled migration program in 189, 190, 491, you do get extra 5 points in working in your nominated occupation. So with that 1 year of work experience, you collectively get 5 points for working 1 year in Australia in your nominated occupation. The second a good benefit is that it accumulates the work experience for a 482 visa, because for 482 visa, for the employer-sponsored visa, you need 2 years of work experience. So hypothetically, if someone has 12 months of work experience already, and plus the 12 months of work experience on training visa, that adds to 2 years, which hypothetically you would be eligible for the 482 visa application. When you lodge your 407 visa, if you're holding a substantive visa, you get on a bridging visa A. So on the bridging visa A, you will get full-time work rights. You must maintain your health insurance as well. Now, while you're working on a bridging visa A, you still accumulate your work experience. So one of my clients today I had for pastry cook, she already has 1.5 years of work experience. So I'm going to lodge another 12 months of trainee visa. before she gets the trainee visa, she will probably have another 6 to 7 months, because that's potentially the processing time for 407 trainee visa. So she will have another 2 years. And by the time she will accumulate more work experience, and then she will be eligible for 482 visa. Like I said, there are some occupations that are in the short-term list, and then some are in the medium-term list. Now that the medium and short-term list applies to 482 visas. We will talk about the, I'll take some questions while I'm doing the live session, so that makes it easier for everybody to understand. Lil Jack says, since it's an employer-sponsored visa, they take advantage to the employee, and they do force the staff to work extra miles. How to make sure the employer don't abuse staff? So Lil Jack, thanks for the question, because sometimes that is one of the questions. I know you have framed it in a different way, but yes, it is very closely related to the concerns that it's the concern from both the sides. Even the employers have concerns that will the candidate will be sticking to the nominated occupation, or will be sticking to us, or they will quit the job. When the trainee visa or the 482 visa comes, it comes with some obligations. Now, those obligations are for the candidate, the applicant, as well as for the employer. If you talk about abusing staff, that is a different authority that looks after the fair work, that looks after the workplace, the obligations of the employer. But if you talk about, if you talk about the visa, it is the obligation of the employer to train you. So for the trainee visa, the expectations are not that high, because you are reporting to a trainer, you are reporting to a manager whose job is to train you. And also, Lil Jack, when the case comes to me, I have to talk to the employer and make sure that they understand their obligations. Usually till now, it's been a couple of years, I haven't experienced any sort of those issues. But if you talk about that they ask you to work a lot extra, then these are the things that you need to speak to your employer, and what are the expectations of each other, of the employee to the employer, as well as of the employer to this. So what are your expectations with each other? Ravneet asking how much experience you need for training visa. Ravneet, you must have 12 months of work experience, but don't get scared when I say 12 months. When I say 12 months full time, it does not mean that you must be in a paid employment. Some of the work experience can be counted of voluntary, some of the work experience can't be counted of your placements. If you have completed your qualification in the last 12 months, the study period can also be counted as experience. So that is very clearly written in the policy, and we have had very successful cases. So you can contact me and get in touch with me. I will mention my contact details. You can contact me directly for your eligibility. Kaswik Raja, I would like to know about the subclass 408. Kavix, 408 is the COVID visa, which the Department of Home Affairs introduced last year for the candidates who are not able to depart the country, and for candidates, the applicants who are not eligible for any other visa, or you are working in the health and critical sector. So depending on your eligibility for the COVID visa, if your visa is expiring within 28 days, or your COVID visa can be lodged after 28 days after your visa expiry. So I would like to know a bit more details. I've given you the general eligibility, but at the same time, this eligibility is a general eligibility. I would need to check specifically your eligibility requirements. Thanks for replying. Fair work is more than vast flower. There are more, but they don't act. Lil Jack, I would highly recommend, I'm happy to speak to you, because I've had, I know a little bit about, I'm not a lawyer, but yes, I know a little bit about how the fair work works. So you can contact me and I can speak to you. I'm more than happy to speak to you about your particular situation and what are the eligibility requirements for you specifically. I'll talk about the 482 visa application, and then I'm happy to take more questions. Happy to answer questions related to any other visa subclass as well, not necessarily the employer-sponsored visa. Now, like I said, now where we left was that when you complete your 407, for example, a candidate has been granted a 12 months trainee visa. Just before your trainee visa is about to expire, you have already accumulated 12 months of work experience, and you could be eligible for 482 visa or any other visa subclass, depending on your point system. Or depending on the state that you're working in, if you have a state sponsorship eligibility, we could look at that as well. This visa is also applicable to people who are outside the country as well, not necessarily just who are inside the country, but yes, because of the travel ban, it is a bit hard to get a visa from outside Australia for trainee visa. So it is mainly designed to people who are already working in Australia. You can add your partner as well, a secondary applicant, your children, keeping in mind that your partner should not be allowed to work in Australia for more than 40 hours a fortnight, because it's a temporary visa, and your partner can only work more than 48 hours fortnight. That's one of the visa conditions. Now, going to the 482, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is a different visa to 407. 407 is the trainee visa, and 482 is a skill shortage visa. So basically, the 482 is enabling the employers to hire skilled workers where they cannot find skilled Australian workers. So it's basically they're facilitating employment of foreign workers to address temporary skill shortages, wherein at the same time, they also have to ensure that the Australian workers get priority as well, that they're treated equally. Now, first, you need to have an employer, definitely, and they need to be approved as a sponsor. It is a 3-step process, similar to the trainee visa. It is sponsorship, nomination, visa. Now, I'll just brief it like it in summary. I'll brief it so that it doesn't get complicated. Trainee visa and 482 visa both have a 3-step process: sponsorship, nomination, and visa. Both the visas in the sponsorship application, it's more towards the financial of the company, that the employer is lawfully actively operating the business in Australia, and they meet some of the local labor and employment practices. Some of the documents, if you have an employer, if you're happy for me to talk to them, I'm more than happy to talk to them and tell them about the required documents. Mainly, they will be profit and loss documents, lease agreement, business activity statements, etc. Now, it is our job to make sure that the employer is aware that the only party that these documents are shared is the Department of Home Affairs. A lot of employers, majority issues they have is that they fear of the confidentiality, because at the end of the day, these are very confidential documents, and these are the financials of the business. Now, everything is in writing, and whatever emails are shared between us, me, and the employer, it only remains between me and the employer. It doesn't goes to the applicant. Now, the second part of the application process is the nomination application. So, in brief, the nomination application is basically regarding filling the position. What are the salary being offered? How much efforts the company has made to hire Australian workers in the local labor market. The nomination is about the position genuineness as well. With the labor market testing, employers have to place the job advertisement for 28 days minimum. It has to be at 3 places. One of the mandatory places is the job active. It is our job to make sure that all the details like the position description, the genuineness of the position, the labor market testing is done properly. We will not submit the application. I will not submit the application if I really think that any of these is missing, because these are main aspects of the nomination application. The purpose of the nomination is to show to the department that we are genuinely hiring this candidate, and this is the best candidate we have, and we have tried to make we have made efforts to find that position in the local labor market through our job advertisements, and we are not able to fill in that position. The third step is the visa application. Now, this is your part, the visa applicant. For the visa application, you must demonstrate that you have skills for this occupation. Some of the occupations will need skill assessment. Some of the occupations will not need skill assessment. So not all occupations need skill assessment. Now, to be more clear, like the 482 has got different lists. There are occupation on medium-term list, there are occupations on the short-term list. The skilled occupation list works that way. There are occupations in the skilled occupation list have medium term, short term, and the ROL, which is the regional occupation list. So depending on your nominated occupation, I'll have to assess whether which area you fall into, because all the lists have different eligibility factors. All are renewable. You can renew them, but then depending on which list it falls into. The the 482, you will get your visa, and then once you get your visa, after working in that occupation with your employer for 3 years, you'll be able to lodge your permanent residency. Usually with my clients, I haven't had any issues yet where the employer is pretty happy with the candidate for 3 years, and they're more than happy to sponsor the candidate for 186 TRT, which is the transition stream. These are the things that you need to make clear with the employer, or I can make employer clear that whether if in future, after 3 years of the 482, would you be happy to sponsor the candidate for 186? If they have a strict policy that we will not be sponsoring you for permanent residency, then it's my job that while you're on that visa to explore other options of state sponsorship. Because we know beforehand that future the employer will not be able to sponsor you. Now, there is a work experience requirement. Now, why I'm stressing on the work experience requirement is that with 407, you need 12 months. With 482, you will need 2 years of relevant work experience or part-time equivalent. When I say part-time equivalent, for example, if you have 1 year full-time work experience and 2 years part-time, so 2 years part-time equals to 1 year full-time. Similarly, if you have 1 year part-time, that equals to 6 months full-time. That is clearly written in the policy that it is acceptable. So you can have pro rata, you can have equivalent. You don't need to be continuously working for 2 years full-time. There is no age limit. So if you're above 45, you can still apply for 482 visa. I'll take some questions if I would like to know Shadeep is asking, I would like to know the eligibility for employer-sponsored visa as a cook and a chef. Let me know, does it lead to pathway PR? Shadeep, cook falls into the 482 list. So if your employer is happy to sponsor you on 482 list, you can apply for a 2 years 482 visa. You can renew it for another 2 years, but it is not in the 186. But if you're eligible for a chef, I would highly recommend go for chef, but depending on the company requirement as well. So Shadib, I would like to check your eligibility, whether you've done your Cert 3, Cert 4. If you have 2 years of work experience as a chef or a cook, you can apply for 482 visa. But if you have 12 months of work experience, or you have recently completed your studies in the last 24 months for 12 months, you can apply for trainee visa. I have a lot of chef, cook, and pastry cooks for trainee visa. Eventually, that would lead to 482, and then some of the occupations would lead to 186. Gobind is asking, I'm working in my occupation as mechanical engineer for last 7 months. What are my visa options? 482 visa, I need to have 2 years. Absolutely right, Gobind. So I'm glad that you are aware of that from my live session, that 482, you need to have 2 years experience. So if you're working as a mechanical engineer in the last 7 months, let me know when is your visa expiring, because another 5 months, you could be eligible for a trainee visa. 482, yes, you will not be able to lodge if you do not have 2 years of work experience. So that potentially could be refused. So I would recommend not lodging 482 application if you do not meet the work experience requirement. Let me know your the expiry date as well. So we'll see what potentially we can lodge before your visa expires. Mandeep is asking, I have 3 years of experience as a welder from different employers. Am I eligible for direct entry? Mandeep, if they're happy to sponsor you, I'll have to check whether your collective work experience and how long have you had that experience for. So if you have work experience 3 years, I can check potentially whether you're eligible for the 186 direct entry or not. Keeping in mind, there are steps involved: sponsorship, nomination, and visa. Let me know if you're inside Australia or outside Australia. I'll have to check all the eligibility factors. So please book a consultation with me. I would love to discuss the eligibility option. If you have an employer, don't let them go. Yeah, you just make use of it. Hemant is asking, could you please tell about COVID visa 408? I'm working in an aged care facility. Will there be any difficulties to apply for 491 and 190 visa? Hemant, let me know when is your visa expiring. If you're working in aged care facility, closely related to critical and health sector, you could be potentially be eligible for up to 12 months of visa. There are some occupations, if you're working, like for example, I've got clients who are working as a security guard in hospital or as a cleaner in hospital. So potentially the Department of Home Affairs will grant you the COVID visa, but it could be for only 3 months. But if you're working as an aged care worker or a personal care assistant, we can have a look at the 408 visa for the maximum number of months you could get. But the 491 and 190 visa, Hemant, are different pathways. It does not interfere with each other. If you've lodged a COVID visa, that doesn't mean that you cannot lodge a 491 or a 190, depending on the regional state sponsorship or the metro state sponsorship, you will be eligible for the skill migration program. So Hemant, I would like to check when is your visa expiring so I can take the necessary steps beforehand, before your visa expires. Nick is asking, I'm working as a chef. 485 is finishing 28th May. That's pretty soon. I'm doing job ready. I started working in June last year. Nick, yes, if you have an employer, you're doing your job ready. So let me know how much work experience. But I think that I'm assuming that if you're working as a chef and your 485 is finishing in 28th May, so you would have had more than 12 months of work experience. If you were working as a chef during the whole course of your 485, that you could be eligible for a trainee visa. Yes, Nick, I would love to hear from you, and please book a consultation with me so I can check your eligibility. After the trainee visa, combining your previous 12 months and these 12 months on training visa, then you could be eligible for 482 because chef is it in the medium term list. So you could be eligible for future pathways. Processing time for 482. Akash, the sponsorship I got approved in 2 to 3 days. The last sponsorship is pretty quick. The processing time is varying right now. It could be 4 to 5 months, but nowadays I think the department is prioritizing onshore applications. So the processing time is pretty quick. So you can get in touch with me and I'll have a look what is the current processing time for you specifically. Sahil, start working in Northern Territory as an accountant on my TR, 3 months left on TR. Can I apply for 408? Sahil, you can apply for COVID visa. However, I personally prefer to have, so I can look for all visa options. COVID visa would be my last option that I would apply for you if you're not eligible for really any visa onshore. Obviously, like it's not that I would want to lodge a student visa for you because not everybody wants to study further. But COVID visa, I would lodge on your behalf if I really think that there is no other visa option left. There is no state sponsorship. There's no employer sponsorship. BN Karanveer is asking, your visa expiring in 2021, working in aged care, can I go for COVID? Yes, before November, you must lodge your application for COVID visa. But let me check if you're eligible for any other visa. I have a lot of clients who have lodged their COVID visa, but they were potentially eligible for other visas. I had a client yesterday who lodged the COVID visa last year, but he was eligible for 482 and his employer was happy to sponsor him. So I would like to check all the visa applications, all the, visa options before you go for COVID visa. I'll take some other questions. I'll cover the 482 medium term and short term. It's a little bit about the labor market testing as well. And then I'm more than happy to take further questions. And the questions that I'm not able to answer, I will reply to them individually and leave my contact details so you guys can get in touch with me and book your consultation with me. Now, I would also like to address about the 457. So initially, like because I've been in the industry for more than 10 years now, and there is some grandfathering rules. There are people here on a 457 visa, so there are different requirements for 457. So anyone who is watching, if you're holding a 457, which is now a 482, please get in touch with me. So let me check if you're eligible further for direct entry 186, because if you would have come on 457 visa, it would have been a couple of years by now, and now you would have accumulated your visa, the work experience. Now, like I said, 482 has got medium term, short term, and the regional occupation list. Now, there are occupations. Now, why I'm talking about the short term is like the occupations like cook, pastry cook. They are on short term list. So you will only get your 482 visa for 2 years, but you can you can lodge a second 482 for another 2 years. There is no permanent residency pathway unless you are in a regional area. So these occupations that are in the short-term list, you can only lodge your permanent residency if your employer is based in a regional area. You need 2 years of work experience for sure. That there's no exemption for that. It is a must. There is no age limit. I have some candidates who are above 45, more than 45 years of age. Again, the nomination has to go through the labor market testing. There is no exemption for labor market testing. When I talk about the labor market testing, I would also like to address that the 186 direct entry, it is not mandatory to get the labor market testing, but it is very clearly written in the policy that the case officer might have a look at whether they can assess the file based on collectively on the position genuineness. So I recommend that if you have time left on your visa, I recommend that the employers do labor market testing on the 186 direct entry as well, to show that they did efforts to recruit someone local, and you are probably one of the best candidates in anyone who applied for the visa. There are some occupations on the regional occupation list. So if your employer, he must be operating in a designated regional area. There is a pathway to permanent residency. So if you're working with that employer in a regional area for 3 years, you are eligible for a permanent residency after that. Even for the regional occupation list, 2 years work experience is mandatory. Keep in mind that you are allowed to have equivalent or pro rata. So 2 years full-time work experience does not have to be continuous. It can be, so if you have 2 years, or probably if you say 6 years part-time, that is 3 years full-time equivalent. Labor market is mandatory. Now, one thing I want to touch about is the market salary rate as well. You need to be pretty clear with the employer how much salary you would be paid, because you must be paid as per the annual market salary rate. The whole process of trainee visa and the 482 and both the visa, it sounds complicated, but it's my job to make it easier for you and the employer as well. One of the most difficulties in the 482 visa is that it's very hard for students to get 2 years work experience, because, for example, if you're working as a chef, you get your temporary graduate visa only for 1.5 years, and that is not enough. So the purpose of the trainee visa is that when your 485 visa is ready to expire, is going to expire, you lost the trainee visa, so you accumulate more work experience. I'll just take some questions here. Rohit is asking, I'm working as a process worker in transformer manufacturing company. After 1 year, am I eligible for a training visa? My field is mechanical engineering. So Rohit, what's your qualification? Have you done your qualification related to mechanical engineering? I would like to know what is your bachelor's or master's in, and manufacturing company. As a process worker. Process worker is no nominated occupation. So you will need to check with your, or I'm happy to talk to you whether which nominated occupation would your employer nominate you in, because process worker is not a nominated occupation. So I need to make sure that your occupation is in the skilled occupation list. Abhishek, there is no labor market testing required for 407 training visa. That's correct. For trainee visa, the employers do not have to go through the labor market testing. The labor market testing, it is only applicable for the 482 skill shortage visa, because they need to show that they try to recruit the people from the local labor. It is not for training, because the word itself, trainee visa, is for training, not skill shortage visa. Rohit, could you tell me which is your bachelor's in? And also, I would like to book an appointment. So I would like you to book an appointment with me so I can check your eligibility, because it is not just about your qualification and nominated occupation. I need to check whether the employer is eligible for to sponsor you or not. How many years of experience, Shadeep is asking, to do the skill assessment as a chef, not a cook? So Shadeep, there depends on the assessing authority. If it's a TRA, you're doing the job ready program 12 months. If it's vet assessed, 12 months in the last 3 years. But I would like to discuss with you your whole work experience, what qualification you hold. If you do not hold a qualification, I need to check whether you're eligible for the recognition of prior learning, which is the RPL certificate, that potentially you could get a skill assessment through that. Sunil is asking, is business analytics? So I assume you're talking about business analyst is in PR list. It is in the 189 list as a business analyst, but nowadays it's a little bit hard to get invited in that nominated occupation. I can look for other visa options for you if your visa is expiring, and then see if there's any state sponsorship available. Milan is asking, I'm working as a motor mechanic in Western Australia, 485 expiring in Feb, expired already. So which visa you're working on at the moment? So you're saying your visa expired in 22nd February. Just want to check, are you working part-time or you're on a student visa, Milan? So please discuss your eligibility with me. I'm more than happy to discuss your future pathways. Rohit, how can I book an appointment? Rohit, I'll leave my email address and my mobile contact details after this session, and then you can contact me. Can we do a job ready program on a trainee visa as a chef? Yes, Milan, you can do that. The eligibility to do a job ready program is that you must have full-time working rights. So in the 407 trainee visa, you have full-time working rights. So, but you need to check with your employer, are they happy to do a job ready program with you on that, with your employer? So you can get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to explain you the other eligibility factors as well. What are the chances for 90 points for New South Wales onshore software engineer field? Have you already lodged your EOI? So if you're living and working in New South Wales, you could potentially be invited for software engineer, because it is in the PMSOL list, which is the priority migration skilled occupation list. So also would like to know whether you're working in a regional area or you're working in which area you're working in, whether it's a regional area of New South Wales or a metro. Abhishek is asking, what is job ready program? Abhishek, it is job ready program is for the trade courses. The TRA, the Trade Recognition of Australia, does the job ready program in order to assess the skills of an applicant. So it is basically for the trade occupations. There's a 12-month job ready program. It is outcome is a skill assessment, to be straightforward. Lohit is asking, I've been working as a field engineer related to IT from last 3 years. Yes, you can apply for a trainee visa. I have assessment as engineering technologist. That's really good, Lohit. Talk to your employer. Are they happy to sponsor you? But potentially, if you have 3 years of work experience, then you could be eligible for a direct entry 186 direct entry, because you also have a skill assessment as engineering technologist. I would love to check your eligibility. Mary is asking, can a restaurant sponsor me directly with the Diploma of Hospitality? Visa expires. So Mary, if they want to sponsor you as a chef, you do need a certificate 4, or a cook, you need certificate 3. With the Diploma of Hospitality, if they sponsor you as a restaurant manager, it will be pretty difficult because you do need a bachelor's degree if you want to be sponsored as a restaurant manager. Anushka is asking, I'm currently working as a retail buyer full-time in South Australia for 8 months. Masters in marketing, that's great. If you apply for trainee visa, Anushka, it does not stop you from applying for a 491. However, if you have applied for a 491, you cannot apply for 189190. So when you apply for a 491 regional, it does stop you from applying for other PR pathways, but applying for a trainee visa does not stop you from applying for a skilled migration program. I'm working in cybersecurity full-time past 2 years. How many months my visa expires in October? Abhishek, if you're working in cybersecurity, let's check your other visa eligibility options as well. So you can book an appointment with me. COVID visa is usually the Department of Home Affairs is granting COVID visa to people who are working directly in the health and critical sector. Danish is asking, can I apply for my sister's visitor visa for an event in this situation? Danish, there is a travel ban. Where is your sister located? Let me know. I'm more than happy to discuss other visa pathways as well. There is a travel ban, and there's a travel ban exemption for partners usually, but in case of emergency, or I can check the eligibility for a travel ban waiver for the tourist visa for your sister. I'll just take one or two more questions. Can a restaurant sponsor me as my course will be completed in July? So Utsab, I will need to check what qualifications you hold. If your restaurant is happy to sponsor you, that's excellent. Just want to know which course you are doing. I might have missed your comment up there because I'm scrolling through. So I just want to check what qualifications do you hold and how much work experience do you have in your nominated occupation. Milan is asking, working as a motor mechanic and I'm doing my job ready program. So I'm eligible for training visa. Milan, you are working. So how long have you had the work experience? So if you've had 12 months of work experience, you can apply for 2 years. You are eligible for 2 years training visa, but I would preferably apply for a 12 months motor mechanic training visa, because for me, I need to justify to the department that why you need to be trained for 2 years to as a motor mechanic, like what will be the upskilling. So I would also like to mention that in the nomination training visa, there is a training plan involved. Now that is a very detailed training plan that a third party can do, or I can guide you through, and your employer can possibly draft their own training plan. That training plan is most critical part of the nomination because it highlights that what skills the applicant has, why they are training that particular candidate, what will be the training pathway, what will be involved in the training, and who will they be reporting to. Keep in mind that you need to have a trainer as well. Like for example, if you are hired as a chef and you are working under probably a human resource manager, so that's a wrong eligibility. So you cannot be working as a chef and reporting to an HR manager. It could be fine for a 482 visa, but for a trainee visa, you should be under, in the organization chart, you should be under someone who is a head chef, who is your trainer, who is more skilled and experienced. That's the whole purpose of the training visa. Utsab is asking, I hold a cert 4 in commercial cookery and diploma. Am I rejected from last 1.5? So Utsab, yes, if you hold a cert 4 in commercial cookery, working in kitchen. So are you working as a chef? Or are you working as a cook? Depending on that. So kitchen hand is no skilled occupation list. A kitchen hand is no occupation. You could be working as a chef or a cook. Is 407 same fee as 482 visa? The visa application fee is different, but for the sponsorship and nomination, the sponsorship is $420. I will give you the exact fees in my comment after my session. I'm more than happy to share the fee structure. or provide me with your email address. I will email you the fee structure, and if you can book an appointment with me as well, I will be more than happy to discuss the fees as well. Because Milan has asked about the fee structure, I would also like to highlight that for the 482, it is the employer's obligation to pay for the sponsorship and the visa application, sponsorship and the nomination application. There is a training levy cost involved every year. So that's the reason I would like to, yeah, thanks for your email. I'll email it to you soon. The training levy cost is also employer's obligation, which most of the employers are already aware of it, and they are more than happy to pay for it. I haven't had any issues where employers said, no, we don't want to pay, because at the end of the day, they are paying for somebody to work with them for 3 years. So yeah. Can I claim my work experience gained while on training visa? Yes, Lohit, because you will be working for 12 months in a nominated occupation, you can claim 5 points. For working for 1 year in Australia. Precious is asking, I have a bachelor degree in nursing. Are nurses eligible for this program? Yes, Precious, nurses are eligible for this program. Are you based here or you're based overseas? And if you have a bachelor degree in nursing, you could be eligible for like a skill assessment as a registered nurse, and we can look for the skilled migration pathway, because nursing is in a health and critical sector, and there are high chances of invitations for 491, 189, and 190 as well. Are you working in Melbourne? TR gets over 20 will be eligible training visa. Yes, you can lodge. If your employer is happy to sponsor you as an enrolled nurse or a registered nurse, you may be eligible for a trainee visa. I would like to check your eligibility option. Milan says, when Victoria can open for 491, please advise. Yes, Milan, sure. I've got your details here, and I'll put that in my emailing list, and we'll get in touch with you, sure. I've got a lot of questions here, which I'm more than happy to discuss after the session as well. And I leave my comments. I leave my comments and answers after the session ends. Aged care worker are eligible for sponsored visa. I will have to check, Sunil, for the aged care worker, because you need to nominate an occupation like in the skilled occupation list in order to be eligible to apply for an employer-sponsored visa. Mary is asking, what do I have to attain if the restaurant wants to sponsor me as a restaurant manager? Mary, I'll have to check your work experience, your company organization chart. You do need a degree. Highly relevant to the hospitality industry and management as well, but I'll need to check your qualification requirements. This is the general eligibility I'm giving. I think I've got a lot of other questions, which I'm more than happy to answer once my session ends. And I will leave my contact details in the comments below as well. And please book your consultation with me. My name is Gunjan. I work as a registered migration agent with Aussizz Group in the Collins Street branch. And I would love to hear from you. If you have an employer, please check the eligibility for the employer-sponsored visa. And also, I would like to tell the applicants that don't hesitate to speak up and talk to the employers, because they wouldn't know what are you interested in unless you share and unless you talk, what are you thinking? If you want me to have a chat with, I can arrange a conference call with your employer, and I'm more than happy to discuss and discuss the eligibility options as well. The benefit of talking to employers is that, yes, then they know that they're getting the right advice, they're getting a professional advice, and everything is in writing. So they would obviously have more confidence in sharing their documentation, sharing their information, and it'll be good to talk to them because they will know their obligations as well. So there is no misunderstanding after the lodgement of the visa. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for your time. I will address these questions and the answers after the session. And if you would like to know more about your situation, you need to book a one-to-one consultation with me, because this is the general eligibility which I have shared. Thank you and good evening.